We invite Chessa Benevento, a current high school student at Foxcroft currently living in Stewart Dorm, to share her story of the missing pizza rolls.
I'm here today to talk to Chessa about the stealing of her pizza rolls. So, what happened?
So it was a Thursday, and it was just not a good day for me. And I was like, all right, to make my day better, I'm going to have some pizza rolls that have been waiting for me for 2 weeks now. I go downstairs to the freezer where my pizza rolls. I open the freezer door. I trust these people just one more day, and then I'm actually going to have my pizza rolls. Like, what the heck? Where are my pizza rolls? So I go over to Miss Ulmer, the dorm parent, and Kalisa, the prefect. I go tell them what happened. Then they're like, okay, send out an email. And I sent out an email saying how annoying that was for somebody to steal my pizza rolls and that I was already having a bad day. I just felt super annoyed, so upset about it. And yet, they still think it's okay to steal our food. Really, you stole a 9-pack of pizza rolls. And it was really annoying because also there are trips to the grocery store. And yet this person still had the nerve, even after our meeting that was fresh in our minds, to steal somebody's food.
All right. Thank you, Chessa. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope you get to the bottom of this. The issue of stealing surrounds Stewart Dorm, but will this issue ever get resolved? As Chessa reminds us, this is a frequent problem. Why does this happen so much? We will figure out why as you pay close attention to our next interview. Kalisa McNeely. We mentioned before she is one of the dorm leaders at Stewart Dorm. Kalisa, you have the floor.
We have Kalisa McNeely here on the pod, a young and bright student leader at Foxcroft Boarding School in Middleburg, Virginia. She is here to join us and be a part of this conversation about the presence of stealing. Kalisa, thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. From my understanding, this has been an ongoing issue for the duration you have been here as a student and even before you attended the Foxcroft School.
It's a lot of mixed conversations, but while living in Stewart, there definitely has been incidents of stealing.
Yeah.
So, and I don't feel like there's a way to measure when things are stolen because of, if it's food, it's the cost of it, if it's a personal item, the sentimental value. But it's been a fair amount where people have been affected. If you need food and if you're taking food because you don't have any, you can ask and always ask. So I think the motive is just not having necessarily, because it doesn't seem to be like taking a lot of objects out of sentiment of value. We don't really have people taking money. It just seems to be food, so it's more of like you don't have and you don't feel comfortable asking, and that's the problem. How could this happen in our dorm? Why is this person doing? Everyone just feels crowded. I think for a lot of girls that sort of just makes them feel nervous about leaving their food and then wondering like, oh, someone could take my food, always in the back of their minds, worrying. I'm not suspecting anyone myself, and I don't think any girls are either. It's happened to various girls. Are you sure you lost it? Is it stolen? Is there somewhere it could be? Retrace your steps. We've had consequences, like if people are taking things out of the community fridge, we'll shut the fridge because you don't know how to deal with stealing until it happens. I'm like, hey, if it says posted, it means posted. Do not take it from anyone if it's not yours and you didn't write posted. And that was also something we introduced in the very beginning. If something says posted, you have no right to take it if it's not yours. Putting up these barricades of like, hey, you can't do this. And all we can do at the beginning is set the basic rules. If you see something, say something. Help us understand why people take things. I think the only way to get better is like give the sense of trust in the community.
What are some key takeaways, points, or advice you would like to share with people listening in on this?
When something of yours gets stolen, of course you have every right to be upset.
As Kalisa states, the reasons surrounding stealing are due to students being too afraid to speak up and ask for something due to their fear of rejection. Next, we will continue to explore this issue on a more psychological basis, with input from Foxcroft's own student counselor and psychology major, Erin Abbott.
So I'm sitting down with Mrs. Abbott to discuss the psychology behind stealing. Mrs. Abbott has a BA in psychology from University of West Florida, as well as an MA in counseling from Seton Hall University. First, I would like to ask, what do you think of this whole situation?
So I think when we look at the issues of honesty, specifically in the dorms where girls are taking things that don't belong to them. We need to talk about this age group and impulsivity. Everyone develops, in their own way at their own time, but you guys all, or girls all, share a common feature of your brains developing typically in a predictable fashion. And we know that the prefrontal cortex is one of the last parts of the brain to fully mature and develop. That actually the age where most people's is fully developed is around 24, which is, for some of you guys, 10 years from now. So if we're talking about stealing, I think we have to talk about impulsivity. I think we have to talk about seeing something you want and making instant decision, an impulsive decision to do that wrong.
The brains of teenagers and young adults don't reach full development until the age of 24. If you compare this to adults in a workplace, you rarely hear about stealing problems, and it is because their brains are fully developed, and they need to maintain their professionalism. So of course they're not going to act impulsively.
Let's go behind the scenes to Emma Northup, here to tell us about her editing process of this week's episode.
Throughout editing this podcast, I learned how complicated the process is. It takes a lot of time, so we learned how much effort goes into making even a 5-minute podcast. The case of the missing pizza rolls has taught me and the people listening a very valuable lesson. While the culprit remains unfound, we learned that in order to grow as a community, we need to support each other and keep one thing in mind. That is, to keep calm in situations like this and to remember that it is okay to ask people for something. Remember that stealing creates distrust, so next time think twice before acting on impulse.